Good morning and welcome to where are we? Welcome to. Well, I think that should be enough intro for this morning. Um, the entire newspaper front pages are taken up with the disaster that is unfolding in Turkey, and it would be wrong of us to ignore it. The thousands have been killed, and we will take a look at an update in a short period of time. But let's just take you through the newspaper headlines, front pages this morning. The Metro saved from hellquake. The Metro. Let's. The Metro says thousands die in quake hell, but there is a moment of hope amid the horror. And it shows a picture of somebody being rescued from one of these apartment blocks. They think the death toll will rise to 10,000. There are 5,000 confirmed so far. It's a race against time to save the trapped, as Turkey and Syria, not just Turkey and Syria, are devastated. It's the largest earthquake in almost 100 years. Hundreds of buildings have collapsed. People were killed in their sleep, had no chance to get out or get away. They use the word on the front page, horror. And indeed, it is horror. The Guardian, catastrophic. Thousands dead as an earthquake hits Turkey and Syria. The Guardian says international rescue missions are rushing to Syria and Turkey after the region was hit by the most powerful earthquake in at least a century. The paper says a 7.8 magnitude quake hit in the darkness of a winter morning and was followed by a second 7.7 magnitude quake in the middle of the day. The maximum in the earthquake scale is 9. So you can tell just how severe, how bad it was. The Times, giant earthquake kills thousands in their sleep. It doesn't add much except that the death toll after the earthquake was expected to rise last night in a region already suffering war and a refugee crisis. And the World Health Organization said the total figure could increase 8-fold. It also features a picture of a girl being carried through a crowd after she was rescued from a collapsed building, giving some hope that not everybody involved in the thing will be completely devastated. Financial Times, thousands dead after the biggest quake in 84 years shakes Turkey and Syria. The FT doesn't normally do a non-economic story as its lead. So that gives you some idea of the devastation, of the importance of this I was going to say event, but event isn't a word that is anywhere near careful enough. The Daily Express, quake horror. Thousands more feared dead in a truly apocalyptic earthquake. The Sun, 10,000 feared dead in rubble, many more trapped. Help them, it simply says. 10,000 people are feared dead after the earthquake. The Sun has on its front page an earthquake appeal and says all money raised will be donated to the British Red Cross. The story appears alongside a picture of Beyonce at the Grammys, bringing back perhaps a slight sense of reality amongst this horror. The Daily Telegraph it's got a picture of the devastation, but it changes its tack and goes back to politics. Sorry, that's Liz Truss. Well, let's get rid of Liz because it's not fair to tar her with this particular brush. But Alex Salmond, a controversial figure in his own right, is getting involved in the row about getting involved in a row about oh dear. These things are so sensitive. I have to. It just breaks the whole ambiance of this thing. Is but anyway. Essentially, the paper decides to go back to the row in Scotland, where Sturgeon, Nicola Sturgeon, has got involved in a row about what should happen to transgender people, what they should be able to do and what they shouldn't be able to do. Alex Salmond says that she's done irreparable harm to the SNP. And in fact, the polls have shown a sharp drop in support. Nicola Sturgeon tends to be not very flexible about some things. She's got her ideas and she sticks to them, no matter how controversial. But this time, I think it looks as if she's gone one step too far. Salmond says that she's thrown away years of momentum for Scottish independence over her new trans law. The Telegraph says Mr. Salmond's first intervention in the row sees him saying Mrs. Sturgeon is self-indulgent nonsense on gender self-identification laws, has been backing for independence decline. Right, okay. Has seen backing for independence decline sharply. You have to, the writing is so bad sometimes in these papers, you have to read it twice or three times to understand what it's saying. Anyway, the Daily Mail is well, the Mail is also it has got pictures of children being pulled from the rubble as 10,000 feared dead in Turkey earthquakes, it says. But its main headline is fears grow, shrinking military will get no extra funding in the budget. Generals and MPs are warning that amid a global crisis, Britain will be left all but defenseless. And it has big defenses across. It makes the point that Britain can no longer defend itself. And Sunak is under pressure to increase military funding in the budget. The paper says there are growing fears that there will be no extra money for the UK's armed forces, despite the war in Ukraine. And according to sources, this has unsettled senior military officers, the paper notes. And in another comment elsewhere, one actually won't steal the thunder from another newspaper's front pages, but basically it is said that we only have something like 80,000 active soldiers or armed forces personnel, and that if you took them all and you put them into the Wembley Stadium, you would still have seats left over. Thousands killed as they sleep, it says the Eye, but also it then, and this is where we got the right picture this time, is the Truss comeback has damaged the Tories, the pollsters are warning. The return of former Prime Minister Liz Truss has damaged the Tory party, the Eye reports. It points to a poll that the paper notes that people still do not like Truss, and she has not been forgiven. The poll also reveals that Truss' toxic effect was baked in from her time at number 10, the paper says. Ah, dear. Poor old Liz Truss. But once again, in some ways, either people will not get too excited because of the earthquake in Turkey, or this is exactly the sort of thing that I and many more complain about, and that is that these are the things that are thrown out to divert from the fact that the country is in a hell of a mess. The Star. Good old Star. It takes our mind away from all these things, doesn't it? What it says is the number of new passports lost hits a 5-year high. 1 in 20 are waiting over 10 weeks for documents. The Star says half-term holidays are being hit with new travel chaos as the number of new passports is being lost. Some 1 in 20 people are waiting more than 10 weeks for their passport, the paper notes. Now, I have to say that my own personal experience, I've got my passport. It's got quite a way to run, so I don't have to worry. But others that I know here say that they've applied and they've got it in record time. So where the delays are occurring, I have no idea. But generally speaking, things seem to be okay. And before we go back to the devastation caused by the earthquake. We will take a little look at the local news. And the one story says that the Sussex social housing crisis is beginning to tip over and cause real problems. Disrepair, neglect, and humiliation. This is the reality for many living in social housing across Sussex. Poor conditions in homes and on estates have had a detrimental impact excuse me, on tenants' health, well-being, and quality of life. People face long delays in getting repairs fixed and then often see them done to a poor standard. While housing associations have vowed to improve and better conditions, many are skeptical about whether this will happen. And the fact of the matter is that, once again, I happen to know somebody who is today staying at home because the people are coming to fix some damp in her home, which is on the social housing list. And she says that she's been waiting for 2 years for anybody to do anything. Now, we'll exaggerate a little bit, but what he does say is it's a long time. And this issue is, to be quite honest with you, we have accused local councils of incompetence. It's a dreadful thing to have to say that your leaders, and this is the political leaders as well as the executive, the people whose job it is, if you like, the civil servants locally, is that they both seem to be as bad as one another. And they get so lost, the politicians get so lost in doctrine and following political persuasions that they forget why they're there. We've had lots of scandals, none of which have really made an impact because the local politicians are very good at covering up their mistakes. Basically, locally, is say nothing and hopefully it'll all go away. But the fact of the matter is we just do not have a quality. There's no quality left. There's no quality left in the civil service, the executive, with this stupid merger of Lewis and Eastbourne, which is an absolute disaster. Nobody seems willing to make an initiative and try to reverse it. Oh, no. And if you listen to the stupid politicians, you would think that it'd been a great success, but it hasn't. It's a complete and utter disaster. A complete disaster. And if we scratch the surface and some of the things that have taken place as a result of this, but the thing that I find scandalous, absolutely scandalous, is that the local politicians have something called a scrutiny committee, and they can actually go and take a look at what the executive are doing. And do they? No. And my informants tell me that even when they do, the executive just push up the things which they feel confident in talking about. And they do not put on the agenda those things which are controversial. So I'm not a bit surprised that social housing is in a mess. Most certainly is. But this we can lay at the feet of those people that are supposed to be leading us. I did a little once in a while. If I really wanted to get my emotions out of my system, I just put up a little thing on Facebook. Don't expect anybody to pay any attention to it, but nonetheless, it helps get something out of my system. But this is really bothering me, and that is nobody has a sense of duty anymore, a duty to our community. This was, much as we may sneer at the Victorians and the Edwardians and the early Elizabethans, their sense of duty, their sense of what they should do for their community, their sense of what they should do for their neighbor, their sense of what they should do for their community was very, very high. It doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't exist at the top level. If it doesn't exist at the top level, why should we expect it to exist at our level, at the level on the street? We have been badly let down, and yet we let ourselves down. Only about 30% of us, a third of us, vote in local elections. It's tragic. It's absolutely tragic. And most of us don't even know what the hell's going on behind those closed doors. It's even worse now because headquarters is in Eastbourne. You can't go down and knock on the door here. Well, you can. The building's still there. But 9 times out of 10, they say, go and get that phone over there and you'll talk to somebody. And that person is in Eastbourne. Absolutely outrageous. Outrageous. And yet we let it go on. Personally, I would call for everybody to resign and let's start all over again. Because all that happens is to try and pretend it's not me, Gov, not me, Gov. No. Oh, no, it's somebody else's fault. We need to start from scratch and put this whole thing back together again in a sensible way. It is just beyond the pale. The A27 and the A23 are shut in multiple places for roadworks across East and West Sussex. Let's see if we can get some details on that. Sussex is in for as 6 parts of the A27 are set to close for various works, alongside multiple closures on the A23, spanning across both East and West Sussex. The closures will see evening and nighttime drivers having to take alternative routes, with some delays quite possible. Yeah. Well, not a bit surprised, but once again, lack of planning, lack of anything to. Here we go. Now BP profits double thanks to the energy price surge, right? Oh, it's costing us a hell of a lot more now, so we've got to pass the cost on to you. The fact that our profits are doubling has nothing to do with it. Once again, it's outrageous. It just shows the total disability of those people who are governing us, who really shouldn't be there anyway. I'm fed up of being governed by ratios. So many women, so many black people, so many gays, and so on and so forth. I don't give a sod whether all our governance people are black, lesbian, transgender doodly-doodies, if they can do the job. But we've lost sight of that's why we appoint people. We don't appoint them on the basis of whether they can do the job. We do it so that we can balance gender, or we can balance religion, or we can balance color. That is no way to get a good, healthy, functioning society. But who's going to change it? Well, not the people in power. They're too busy each time they turn around finding some other reason why they can give one another expenses. The most outrageous thing I could ever hear of. And if I hear one more time, MPs or councillors say that they work much harder than the rest of us and that it's a very stressful job, then get out of the damn thing. If you can't handle the heat, the rest of us do not have that facility or privilege to remove ourselves from what we do. But we also don't have the privilege of simply saying, oh well, let's give ourselves £13,000 extra for that. Oh, let's make it free to get to work. Oh, let's have a subsidized canteen. We don't have that ability. And I see no reason why MPs should have it if they can't actually find a way to give it to the rest of us. So here we go, BP. Profits more than doubled at oil giant BP last year as the business benefited from runaway gas prices caused by the war in Ukraine. The company said that it would invest an additional $8 billion, that's 6.6 billion pounds, each in the energy transition and in oil and gas, as boss Bernard Looney, oh, that's a good name, promised to keep affordable energy flowing. Well, that's not being transferred down to to us, the people at the cutting edge. Just beyond the pale. It's just beyond the pale. Other local headlines. New A27 plans could see significant development to reduce traffic. What's that all about? The A27 between Worthing and Lancing is set to see significant development to tackle congestion. Several consultations will take place over the next few weeks as nearby residents offer their views on the proposals. National Highways say the scheme will improve road safety on the A27 while also reducing delays and improving reliability. Well, there you are. They're going to ask you what you think, and then they'll just ignore it. Right, okay. Here's something that we should be aware of. Specialist disposal teams are called to Brackle. All right. Right. The Selsey Coast Guard were called to reports of an ordnance bomb on the beach just after 3:30 by a member of the public, resulting in the need for an explosive ordnance disposal team to be called. After arriving at the beach, the Coast Guard team passed the details on to the EOD along with a picture of the finding. The disposal team arrived on the scene and took the ordnance away to dispose of it safely. The ordnance, bloody bomb. How we play around with it, just frightening how we play around with our language. The Shoreham Air Show disaster pilot is challenging his unlawful killing verdict. Nurses and ambulance crews have to join the NHS biggest walkout yet. And Nicola Bulley's family bring in new private specialists to help solve the mystery. Nicola Bulley is the lady who took her dog for a walk and then simply disappeared. So there we are. That is a rundown of the the news locally. But the big story is earthquake in Turkey and parts of Syria look as if they will cost up to 10,000 lives. The biggest earthquake disaster in 100 years. Will that make a difference to people who want to go on holiday to Turkey? Don't know. They haven't gone around to that yet. But the fact of the matter is there's been massive loss of life from a natural disaster. And the world is stepping up to the plate. At least I hope it is. It's talking about sending aid and assistance and so on. The trouble is that it's notorious that those organizations that quite often offer this sort of thing get manhandled by bureaucracy, and a lot of the cash that they raise doesn't go to helping people in the way it should. Okay, that's the news this morning, and that's my little rant, because I have to say I get increasingly disappointed at our leadership, what it stands for, how it's lost its way, how it creates more problems than it solves, and the lack of any desire to do anything about it. It's frightening. We'll look at 9:30 with another episode of The Bloody Past, which is a look at history in Lewes, the Bloody Past being a reference to the fact that more blood has been spilled on the main street, the high street in Lewes, than any other town in the entire country. We have been a bloody society over 1,000 years. Dear. Right. We will see you in just a few minutes' time.